They said the empire was built on gold, and now the headlines say the stories unfold. Flashing lights, courtroom rows, silence loud, and the pressure grows. From Harlem streets to the Forbes list, now he's sitting where the storm hits. Cameras on, but who's legit? Truth and lies in the same script. Diddy defense team got 8 on the move. Agnafilo, Jarago, Shapiro, Steele, Donaldson, Westmoreland, Estavo and Driscoll. The feds got him on 5 charges. They say he on that RICO. Media says he is guilty out the gate. 8 male jurors and 4 women hold his fate. No cameras allowed in the court. Content creators screaming more, more, more. Diamonds heavy, but the weight's not cash. Every step watched through the media flash. Friends turn foes and the past don't pass. When receipts get pulled and they come in stacks. Official transcripts will show the full story. Full statements, but the details may be gold. They wanna put me on trial, put my name on file. Want me to hang it up, but that ain't my style. Say I'm back on road, no hand on Bible. We got this game in a chokehold. Yeah, I'm so cold. My whole career they tried to test me and I aced it. When you want something done, you gotta go and get it. Hate to put you on blast, but it's not up for debate. When the odds stacked against me, victims' names not being used to keep from getting approached by the accused. Kanye showing up in white, saying Diddy fight, fight. What's legacy when it's on the line? Is the name you built still gonna shine? Or does silence scream like a warning sign while the world debates guilt or crime? Every empire's got a tale untold. Every mogul's got nights cold. But behind closed doors, who holds control? Truth is a mirror and it never folds. Spotlight shadows can't outrun fate. Every crown's heavy when it's tied to the state. From the charts to the court, it's a razor blade. Walking the edge that the headlines made. Did the feds charge Diddy for his crimes, or just some for some freak off good times? Baby oil galore, but the feds say there is much more. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. This will be left to the 12 on the jury committee. Is this a RICO, or just a man being major sicko? Was he really the king or just a fling? Did he do what they say? Will NYC jail be where he will stay? Did he bop in the hotels on the top floors? Different bows in different area codes. Some would call them the defense saying evidence is a blur. Some witnesses concur. Will the bad boy for life be serving life, or will he get the win and be in the next jet to Berlin? Spotlight shadows can't outrun fate. Every crown's heavy when it's tied to the state. From the charts to the court, it's a razor blade. Walking the edge that the headlines made. The devil is in the details. While the world debates guilt or crime, is it RICO or freak off?
Diddy says he is love, love, love.
They said the empire was built on gold, and now the headlines say the stories unfold. Flashing lights, courtroom rows, silence loud, and the pressure grows. From Harlem streets to the Forbes list, now he's sitting where the storm hits. Cameras on, but who's legit? Truth and lies in the same script. Diddy defense team got 8 on the move. Agnafilo, Jarago, Shapiro, Steele, Donaldson, Westmoreland, Estavo and Driscoll. The feds got him on 5 charges. They say he on that RICO. Media says he is guilty out the gate. 8 male jurors and 4 women hold his fate. No cameras allowed in the court. Content creators screaming more, more, more. Diamonds heavy.
Hey everybody, just give me a moment. Let me just go ahead on and I gotta send this off to somebody. Just 1 second, y'all. Just 1 second. All right, let me go and get the other one. Just 1 second. I'm trying to send it off to my folks. Just a second, trying to get the file sent off to the folks. Let me get it from over here. Hold on a second, guys. I'm trying to get this file over to Mimi and what's the name? Trying to get these files over to them. Just 1 second. Everybody, speak to everybody. How's everyone doing this evening? I just have to get this thing off to them. Oh my goodness. Just a second, y'all. All right, I got it. Compose. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I had to send it off to Mimi and to Tiara. Is Mimi in here? Mimi, check your email. Okay, guys. Hello, my good people. Good evening. I am here to bring you some updates. I know some of you guys already know it already, but Gina has written a letter on behalf of Sean Diddy Combs, and it's a letter in favorable of him not being a threat to the community. So, and also his attorney replied to some stuff that the government had placed in there, and they had some redactment. So let me go ahead on and show you some of this stuff here. Guys, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me just pull this up. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna bring up the one first from the attorney, and then I'm gonna bring up the other one from the letter afterwards. Do you guys see this? Put my media thing here on it so you guys can get a chance to see that. All right, let's see. There's a couple of pages, and this letter is like 3 or 4 pages on this letter here. And then her letter basically saying that, he's not a threat. She wants him out. Let the man out. That's what she's basically saying. Let the man out. I have no problem with them. They're lying. That kind of stuff that she's saying. So, yeah, she definitely is a real one. You're right about that. She holding him down. She holding him down. She wasn't being part of that shenanigan. She wasn't being part of that stuff. All right. You guys ready? Sean Combs, through his counsel, submit this brief letter to reply to the government's response to his motion for release on condition pending sentencing. In previous to the jury's verdict, the government proceeds as though Combs was not acquitted of trafficking and racketeering conspiracy, along with all the racketeering act with which he was charged and found not guilty. Hell bent on punishing him for being a user of prostitution service in a more draconian manner than any in U.S. history. The government continues to target him unfairly, just as it has done from the inception of the probable misplaced investigation. Despite the jury's verdict, and it continues to make factual statements that are plainly at odds with what the 12 New Yorkers found, and to try to keep Combs incarcerated, even though the jury rejected the serious charges that led to the pretrial detention in the first place. Specifically, the government argues that Combs, 1, has failed to meet the standard for reconsideration, 2, does not show exceptional circumstances, and 3, cannot reasonably show Combs' appearance in court or the safety of the community. For the reasons stated below, the government arguments all fail. The court has ample authority to grant bail. The government first argued that Combs' bail application should be considered as a motion for reconsideration by the court. ECF 488 Act 1. However, as the government acknowledges in the footnotes in the Bail Reform Act, is silent on when or if a district judge may consider his or her own detention order pending sentencing. United States versus Aloulet. The government also concedes, as it must, that the court can reconsider its discussions under the inherited power to reconsider his own ruling, EFC 488. Case law in that. But all the cases cited by the government discuss bail pending appeal. And pursuant to 18 U.S.C. 3141, this court may order that pending imposition or execution of sentence or pending appeal of conviction or sentence. A person may be released. Thus, the court may revisit its bail determination at any time. This makes sense this makes sense as courts routinely modify condition on bail pending sentencing to allow for travel or many other circumstances, and the high standard of reconsideration is not considered. Accordingly, this court may consider this application without treating it as a motion for reconsideration. This is especially true given the existence of July 2nd, 2025, where the judge reached a verdict in the morning and the parties were arguing bail several hours later in the same day. Unlike a more traditional setting for motion where parties typically have days, if not weeks, to consider the facts, the laws, and their arguments. The event of July 2nd were fast moving and it was impossible for parties to review the scores of Mann Act cases to fashion an appropriate argument to the court. For these reasons, we submit the court has ample discretion to consider this application. Exceptional reason exists because both the fact underlining this conviction and the condition at MDC. The government argues that Combs has failed to show the need to prevent hold on a second. So hurry, hold on, y'all. One second. Okay, sorry. Where am I? Where am I? Okay. The government will start from the beginning. The government argued that Combs has failed to show the need to prevent a manifest injustice as required. ECF 488. The government claims that the defense has already argued exceptional circumstances based on a comparison of this case and other Mann Act conviction, but that was a hurried application the day of the verdict based on a quick review over the course of the day of other Mann Act cases. That quick review yielded 4 cases, which counsel distinguished at the hearing. After distinguishing these 4 cases, counsel argued that they provide a strong argument for reasonable sentence in this case, and that counsel would try to get Combs sentenced as soon as possible. Now, with the benefit of further research, counsel has reviewed scores of cases from across the country and submitted this renewed motion for bail, showing that exceptional circumstances exist to warrant release pending sentencing. A. There have been no remotely similar Mann Act conviction, and the cases the government cited are distinguishable. For the purpose of this application, we assume that the Mann Act requires detention post-verdict subject to exceptional circumstances. However, as shown in our original application on July 29, 2025, the statute has been reserved for instances where people, primarily women, are forced into prostitution, where children are lured or forced into prostitution, and where the defendant is motivated by profiting from the business of prostitution. It has quite literally never been applied to the fact here, where a male defendant and his longtime companion agreed to bring other males into their adult consensual relationship. The government is unable to and does not attempt to dispute this point, which alone amounts to an exceptional reason for release. Even The few other cases were where the defendant of a Mann Act prosecution was a user of prostitution services are completely different from the instant case. The defense bail application cited Trowbridge, Steinbeck, and Teals as example of John solely convicted on Mann Act who all received bonds after their conviction. The government argues that those defendants were not as culpable as Combs. That defendant, Steinbeck, had only one occasion of transporting a victim across state lines. Defendant Trowbridge had only had two occasions, and defendant Teal had 6. What the government ignores, however, is that defendants were members of a group called the Jesters, who brought prostitutes across state line to have sex for money with the members of the groups as common practice. Not just occasions indicted. However, the victim for all 3 defendants were victims of trafficking. They could hardly speak English and were undocumented immigrants who were tricked and coerced to work as prostitutes by a defendant in a related case who profited from their forced labor. It cannot possibly be that patronizing trafficked undocumented victim is less culpable than the conduct here, where these alleged victims were adult American men who chose to participate in the sexual activity, got paid thousands of dollars, and considered themselves friends of Combs and his girlfriends. Notably, regarding Stedbeck, the defendant was a member of the Jesters, and yet the government argued that the defendant did not have sex with the victim. Similarly, Combs did not have sex with the men here. The government brushes over Collins, where the defendant was released following a mistrial and an trafficking count, then tried for violating the Mann Act, was convicted and allowed to remain on bond pending sentencing. Collins' conduct was far more egregious, as the victim called 911, stating she was being held against her will. This shows that Combs' continuous detention pending sentencing, despite his acquittal on the charges that actually involved true detention pending sentencing, violence unlike the Mann Act counts is unwarranted and extraordinary, and these are exceptional circumstances warranting his release. The government also cites United States versus Bloomer, which it claims shows the present circumstances are not exceptional. Bloomer, however, the defendant's exceptional reason was solely family circumstances, which the court found was not enough to qualify as exceptional. ID. In so finding, the court in Bloomer held that to qualify as exceptional, the reason to put forward by the defendant need not present an absolute legal novelty, as an unusual legal or factual question can be sufficient, as can a substantial question in the presence of one or more remarkable and uncommon factor. ID at 102. That is actually what we have here. Combs' conviction on these Mann Acts count, as well as the unusual legal application of the facts, are indeed sufficient to qualify as exceptional circumstances. MDC is exceptional circumstances under Chavez. The government argues that Chavez is no longer persuasive authority for this court because Chavez was published over 8 months before Combs stepped foot into the MDC. The government, however, ignores the reality at MDC. The cases since Chavez, which counsel cited, that describes the condition there and painted a misguided picture for the court of reality of the condition at the facility. We continue to be grateful to the facility staff for allowing access for counsel to Combs to prepare for trial. Without these crucial access, Combs would have not been able to prepare his successful defense. However, that does not change the reality of the conditions at the facility for the past 11 months. The government argues that during the defendant's stay at the MDC, the facility has made enormous strides in increasing and stabilizing their staff level and improving medical services and improving physical condition. Though MDC initiated these efforts in 2024 after Chavez's decision in increasing in spending were reversed this year due to the federal government aggressive budget cuts. For example, since January 2025, there have been cuts on BOP staff and pay, and decrease in pending across the agency, exacerbating an already troubled situation. Contrary to the government's contention, living conditions at MDC remain inhuman and the condition seems unlikely to improve due to the aggressive government budget cuts. MDC routinely serve food that is expired and infested with maggots. Ew. Yuck. Ew. The maggots infested food captured in the photos is unfortunate but not uncommon experience. Lockdowns also remain common despite the government's claim. For example, the MDC sent notice to detainees that they would be on lockdown from February 22nd, 2025 to at least March 3rd, 2025 because multiple inmates became disruptive and utilized weapons during an incident. This was just a few months ago. The government also argues that the unchecked violence rely upon the college does not serve as a valid basis for finding of exceptional circumstances because this violence occurred over a year ago. Unfortunately, this shows that the government ignore with respect to inmates' violence at MDC. On March 6, 2025, the U.S. Attorney's Office on the Eastern District of New York announced criminal charges against 25 defendants in 12 separate cases related to violence and contraband smuggling at the MDC, all which occurred recently between April 24th and the present. These include charges against 15 inmates for violent assault against other inmates from May 2024 to the present. A former correction officer for attempting to smuggle contraband into the facility on January 21st, 2025. An inmate for orchestrating a contraband smuggling operation between April and June 2024. An inmate for smuggling ceramic scalpels into the facility on October 12, 2024. Inmate for possessing contraband and continue to commit fraud while detained at MDC. And an MS-13 gang associate for attempting to smuggle a large package of contraband, including 18 cell phones and marijuana. All other MS-13 gang members incarcerated at MDC. Additionally, upon information and belief, Just 2 Fridays ago, an inmate on the floor above Combs was stabbed. Finally, the government argues that Combs' bail motion is devoid of any claims that the defendant himself was impacted in any way by the condition he alleged. Once again, this shows the government's ignorance with respect to the situation at MDC. And then they got some stuff redacted, y'all. I guess something happened to Combs while he was in there. Number 3, the defendant will submit to any condition the court deems appropriate to assure his appearance and ensure the safety of the community. The government argues that even if extraordinary circumstances could be demonstrated, Combs fails to establish a clear and convincing evidence that he does not pose a danger to the community or flight risk. The government is wrong. Combs has shown this court through his behavior in confinement that he does not pose a danger. Moreover, a combination of condition, PTS, monitoring security, drug testing, approved visitors list could provide the court with the necessary assurance that absolutely nothing will continue to happen while Combs is pending sentencing. The defendant does not pose a danger to others. First, despite the conditions of confinement at MDC, Combs has not given into any fights. There have been no allegation of violence at MDC in respect to Combs, and for good reason. At trial, the defendants admitted violence in connection with decades-old violence and an incident of assault in which Combs was first attacked repeatedly in June of 2024. But Combs has not participated in any violence for the past 11 months, demonstrating to the court that even in the condition he is currently subject to, where there is unchecked violence surrounding him, he will not commit assault. He is sober. He has been committed to bettering himself with therapy such as establishing trial records, and is committed to doing everything possible to support himself and his family. Secondly, the government argues that the trial record is replete with evidence of defendant's act of violence towards others. The witnesses of the government called to testify in support of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges. All which Combs was acquitted. And stunningly, the government is trying to support Combs' detention with its failed evidence that Combs assaulted Brianna Banner Bongolian, who testified that Combs caused her substantial injury in Los Angeles at the time when he was 3,000 miles away. The government's troubling also points an unsworn evidence of a non-testifying individual to try to keep Combs in custody. It had a 2-month trial where it could have, but chose not to call these witnesses when they could have been subject to cross-examination and their allegation could have been tested. The government should not be able to support its argument with untested accusation, as they did in pretrial hearings. For example, it argued that Combs was violent towards Virginia Huynh, with whom the defendant was in a relationship at the same time as Ventura. Huynh has written a letter in support of Combs' motion for bond, which is attached in Exhibit A. If any of this was true, the government would have called these individuals without credible evidence. The court should not consider this to continue to detain Combs. Finally, the government argues that Combs brutally attacked Jane in June 2024 in the context of a freak-off ID. However, the court will recall that on an evening of June 2024, Jane invited Combs to her home. He had a magnum of champagne and tequila waiting. Unprompted by anything Combs said or anything that happened that evening, at one point Jane smashed Combs' head onto the kitchen counter as he was bending over tying his shoe. She then began throwing glasses and burning candles at him, saying she hated him and calling him a P word. She explained this by testifying that Combs was dating another woman who was older than 18 but was younger than Jane. She continued throwing glasses at him and believed he got hot candle wax on him. It was in this context that Combs defended himself, and several hours after this that the entertainment night allegedly occurred. The government tried Combs on this incident of trafficking, and he was acquitted by the jury. It is disingenuous for the government to claim that this extensive history of violence, the vast majority of which occurred over a decade ago, which Combs was addicted to drugs, meaning he was unable to show he is not a danger to the community now. How is it Combs, who has been in this institution for 11 months, has not been in any fights whatsoever? Yes, he cannot establish by clear and convincing evidence that he does not pose a danger to community, but however, Combs will submit in any condition the court views as sufficient. In closing, on this point, we ask the court to focus on Combs' time in jail. Violent people are violent in jail as well. They fight with inmates. They challenge the prison staff. They sometimes align themselves with violent groups so they can be more violent. That Sean Combs have been freed of violence of every sort is important to understand that man he is today. He has shown nothing but respect for the criminal justice system and everyone in it, from his first minute in jail till now. There is no reason to believe that he is to be violent or threatening to anyone in any manner. Joe Combs is not a flight risk. The government cannot seriously argue that Combs is a flight risk, given his history of flying to New York under the circumstances with greater than now to face in his impending federal case ahead. He is and always have been an active participant in his defense and would not make the decision to flee when he has prevailed against the most serious charges against him. When Combs was facing a life sentence, he did everything one man could do to show his desire to come to court. Now that he is facing less than that, there is no credible reason to believe that he would flee. In addition, as the court is aware, he is an active, supportive, loving father to 7 children, 4 of whom have spent the last almost 11 months without presence of either parents. Combs is focused on returning to his life with his children and will not run from his responsibility to his children or to this court. For the foregoing reasons, we ask that the court release Combs on whatever condition this court believes is necessary pending his sentencing on October 3rd, 2025. We thank the court for its consideration and all his attorneys. Now, I am going to read the letter from Gina. I'm going to read his letter from Gina. Just one second. Here we go. All right, here we go. Where is it at? Where is it? All right, here we go. All right, here is the next one. This is a letter from Gina, y'all. Virginia. Are you ready? Dear Your Honor, my name is Virginia Huynh, and I am writing as the person identified as victim 3 in this case. I have known Sean Combs for many years in both in a personal and professional capacity. From that experience, I have seen him primarily as a father, a family man, and a businessman. Roles that he has always striving to uphold. I provide this letter to share my observation about his character and the respectable request that the courts permit his release on bond while the case proceeds. I acknowledge and respect that Mr. Combs stands accused and that the court must weigh public safety and the integrity of the legal process. At the same time, I believe it is important for the court to have a full picture of who he is beyond the allegations. Our relationship, like many, was not always perfect. We experienced ups and downs, and mistakes were made, but he was willing to acknowledge his mistake and make better decisions in the future. Over the years that followed, he made visible efforts to become a better person and to address the harm he has caused. By the time our relationship ended, he embodied an energy of love, patience, and gentleness that was remarkable, different from his past behavior. To my knowledge, he has not been violent to many years. To my knowledge, he has not been violent for many years, and he has been committed to being a father first. I am writing because I do not view Mr. Combs as a danger to me or to the community. This is his first criminal case. Throughout the investigation and the proceeding, he has been cooperative, respectful, and compliant. He has substantial ties to his family and community, including children who depend on him for emotional and financial support. Granting him bond would allow him to continue caring for his family and fulfilling his responsibility while still subject to the court's supervision. I want to assure the court that if released, I believe Mr. Combs will adhere to all conditions opposed and will not jeopardize his freedom or the well-being of his family. Allowing him to be at home will also support the healing process for all involved. I respectfully ask that you consider these factors when deciding his eligibility for release. Thank you for your time and consideration. Respectively, Virginia Huynh. All right, y'all. That was her letter. She stand by your man. That was her letter, y'all. That was her letter. Me said, my man. And she's standing by her man, y'all. So that is it, you guys. I want to tell you guys there is a new case on the horizon. Tomorrow starts where Mr. Douglas Weinstein is going to be the attorney for the defendant. And I'm going to talk about that case once I come back. Okay. I will be doing a live streaming. So tomorrow they're not going to have anything for that because it's going to be jury selection. And most likely it's not going to start until open argument may not start until Wednesday. So, but I will be here doing a live. You guys are welcome to come into the room. Come on in the room and communicate with one another, fellowship with one another while we watch the case together. Okay? That sounds good. Does that sound good? And we're going to talk about the case. It's about a man who dismembered his wife a couple of years ago. This is out in Georgia, Liberty County, Georgia. Oh, I was wondering if you was doing that case. Yes, I will be doing that case. Yes. Yeah, I don't know what's up with this computer keep making noise. This is what that's why I had to pause for a minute because it's been like boom, 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 getting on my nerve, you know. Let's see if it's still doing it. Come on in the room. Yeah, make sure you guys hit the like button. You guys have not been treating your girl right. You treat me right. You treat me cool. You treat me right. Okay, let me stop. You was born in Liberty County, Stewart. You was? That's your area? Uh-oh, Miss Renee. Yeah, y'all want to see me? Y'all want to see your girl? What I look like? I've been relaxing today, y'all. I've been relaxing and just been doing my own thing. My hair is back as puff, and I don't care what nobody think. I'm back at puff, pat puff, 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 puff. Hey guys, puff, puff. I've been sitting around the house, relaxing, maxing, not stressing. Not stressing at all, just being me. Oh, we're going to go back to the other side, y'all. We got some more reading to do. You guys, we're going to be talking about my case on the other side because I got some stuff to read to you guys. Y'all going to be like so shocked. This is public record, right? I got some stuff to read to you guys, and y'all going to be like, what? What? Oh my God, this thing is getting on my nerve. Y'all gonna come over to the second? Come on over to the second side of the room. Come on the room. Come on in the room. Whoa! Come on in the room. Okay, y'all. Y'all ready? Y'all ready to end this live? Y'all ready to end this live, my darlings? All right, y'all. I'll see you guys soon. I'll see you guys soon. Love y'all. See y'all later. Bye. See y'all on the other side. Give me about an hour because I gotta get some stuff together. Okay? Give me about an hour. Love y'all. May the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another. Bye.
Thank you for watching the infamous Sylvia channel, where laughter and fun make up our panel. Together we build this digital spree. We appreciate you and our growing family. With mods by our side and chat flowing free in this online space. It's just you and me, we laugh until tears roll down like the rain. In this virtual world, you ease all my pains. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Mods and chat, keeping the vibe so right. Together we shine like stars in the night. We cherish the moments, the highs and lows, from the latest gossip to stories untold. You're more than a viewer, you're part of the crew in this space of ours. It's all because of you. This digital world where emotion is shared, every post and reaction showing we care. The love is real in this virtual domain. With every sign, enjoys what we'll gain. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Mods and chat, keeping the vibe so right. Together we shine like stars in the night. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Mods and chat, keeping the vibe so right. Together we shine like stars in the night. This digital world where emotion is shared, every post and reaction showing we care. The love is real in this virtual domain. With every sign, enjoys what we'll gain. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment